The Ford brothers are mainstays of Canadian political discourse. A few months ago, Doug Ford won a historic third term, and Rob made international headlines as the mayor of Toronto. But what's their lore? How did they get here? Today, I'm going to take you on a journey of power, control, and nepotism. This is the story of the Ford brothers.
About Rob Ford's domestic abuse, drunk driving, racism, homophobia.
Is that all I got?
No, you got a lot of them.
We need to unite, and we cannot let President Trump divide us.
Those Oriental people work like dogs.
There's a bunch of pigs at the trough, and they're slopping up your money, and they have it all over their face, and it's time to kick these guys out of the barn.
I made a promise to you that I wouldn't touch the Greenbelt. I broke that promise. I am very, very sorry.
The first time anything like this has ever happened to a mayor anywhere in Canada.
Mr. Mayor, do you still have zero tolerance for drugs?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, have you purchased illegal drugs in the last 2 years?
Yes, I have.
Rob and Doug were both born to Doug Ford Sr. in Etobicoke, Ontario.
I went in the Somali community. I went in the Chinese people. I went into dark people, black people, whatever you want.
Doug was the oldest, Rob was the youngest, and they also had a sister named Kathy and a brother named Randy. Their father ran the successful Deco Labels and Tags.
Rob Ford's father, Doug Sr. He was the family's first politician, a plain-talking conservative backbencher who from nothing built a multi-million-dollar printing business that would finance the ambitions of Ford politicians to come.
Doug Ford Sr.'s company was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he was a progressive conservative MPP. Even though the Fords loved to hate on Trudeau for being a Nepo baby, I think it's safe to say that they were the OGs for that.
I like to get that Justin Trudeau and shove my foot as far up his ass.
Growing up, they attended high school in Etobicoke, and Rob even dreamed of being a football player.
As teenagers, he and older brother Doug were known as the party guys. Rob still remembered as the go-to kid for drugs.
Rob was a drug dealer at Scarlet Heights Collegiate in my era.
Both brothers were accepted into post-secondary at Humber and Carleton, and both of the brothers dropped out of those programs. In 2000, the year after his father retired, Rob would be elected into city council, which would mark the beginning of his career in municipal politics.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
In the 90s, there was a conservative push to put all of the suburbs as part of the city of Toronto, so that the largest city in Canada would be voting in more conservative candidates. And Rob Ford's popularity reflects how successful that was.
Rob Ford City has never been the downtown core. His support has always flowed from the outlying suburbs, from the immigrant communities like Dixon, but also from the leafy streets of places like Etobicoke.
Editing Lienke here. I just wanted to shout out that it wasn't for a lack of education or anything. That is the reason that Rob Ford was so popular in places like Rexdale and with marginalized communities. As this article points out, there was a certain vibe of condescension and racism towards these communities from people from the downtown core.
The guys at our school, instead of addressing people like the group, saying like, what are you guys doing? Say man's like you. It's really ignorant.
Rob Ford felt very at home and didn't talk down to members of these communities, and that was very refreshing for white politicians. He represented Ward 2 in Toronto, an area which at the time was known for a lot of gang activity. Rob was known as a people's politician. Famously, he would return every single phone call.
When people call me, I personally return their calls, go right to their front door to serve them. It's all about excellent customer service. It's not left, right, or center. I don't ask people on the phone, are you a conservative, NDP, or liberal? Just go out and help these people out. And so he developed an extremely strong bond with his constituents. His public struggles with weight and addiction actually made him more appealing because they viewed him as one of us. 2010 was when he first ran for mayor, and he had one of his first major scandals.
When a story went round that he'd once been arrested for drunk driving in Florida, Ford insisted that hadn't happened either. When reporters found proof, he had to admit the DUI and that Florida police had also charged him with possessing marijuana.
I entered a guilty plea.
This actually increased his popularity a lot, and he ended up winning the race for mayor. Rob famously hated bike lanes.
We're not going to take away parking for bike lanes. This, again, is another example of the war on the car.
A war that's being carried out by his older brother today.
They take out a lane of traffic, put bike lanes in there. It's cut down to one. It's jammed like crazy. There's a petition just in Etobicoke for 50,000 people signing to get rid of these bike lanes.
They would have a heart attack in Amsterdam.
I hate this place. This
zoo.
Rob was also charged with assaulting his wife in 2008. The charges were dropped and they later reconciled. As mayor, he was also embroiled in a conflict of interest scandal where it was discovered that he used a city letterhead to solicit donations for his football team.
A big developing story today. Mayor Rob Ford found guilty on conflict of interest charges.
The city council wanted him to repay the money that he received. Then he just blamed left-wing politicians.
This comes down to left-wing politics. The left wing wants me out of here, and they'll do anything in their power.
He appealed the decision that he was ordered to pay, and the Supreme Court did uphold that he didn't actually violate anything wrong.
I respect the decision of the Supreme Court of Canada. I'm so happy this is finally over. I've been vindicated and we can move on.
Let's get into the drug stuff. That's what everyone is here for.
First of all, there's no crack video, and when you see the crack video, it'll prove I'm innocent.
So in 2012, the City Hall hosted a St. Patrick's Day party where Rob Ford was extremely intoxicated and even groped some of his staffers. He held an extremely wild party in his office where he insulted one of his staffers and even knocked somebody down.
It happened on St. Patrick's Day last year. City Hall security detail a stumbling Mayor Rob Ford returning from a night on the town. He had problems walking, was sweating profusely, and was swearing at Provo as he walked by the security desk. The mayor headed down and visited the security desk alone with a half-empty bottle of St. Remy French brandy.
He also was accused of inappropriately touching other staffers. This is the infamous way he responded after Olivia Gondak accused him of sexual harassment.
Olivia Gondak, it says that I wanted to eat her pussy. I've never said that in my life to her. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
I just think that's so funny. Rob Ford then admitted to having an alcohol problem.
I fully realize in the past I have drank alcohol in excess. I'm receiving support from a team of healthcare professionals. I am taking accountability.
Then there was the infamous crack cocaine incident in which he was filmed by one of his friends smoking crack.
Driving the minority. I'm right wing.
You're right wing?
No, they say I'm just right wing.
Oh, yeah.
Radical guy.
And so by 2014, the pressure was way too much. There were so many calls for him to step down that he eventually did take a leave of absence.
Ford has put his re-election campaign on hold to seek professional help for substance abuse.
He spent 2 months in rehab in May and June of 2014 before returning as mayor. Eventually, Rob stepped down as mayor, and then, unfortunately, in 2016, he did pass away from cancer.
And Rob, I'm going to miss you like crazy. I love you more than anything in the world.
But this was not the end of the Ford Nation or the Ford dynasty. In fact, it was only just the beginning.
And don't worry, Ford Nation will continue. We'll continue respecting the taxpayers. Thank you. We need to unite, and we cannot let President Trump divide us.
Doug outwardly is less abrasive and controversial than Rob. He started working at the family business Deco Printing in the 90s, and he took over the company in 2002. He also managed the Chicago branch and the expansion into the US. Doug helped his father successfully campaign for his seat, and he also successfully ran his brother's mayoral campaigns. So in my head, I sort of view him as the brains behind Rob's antics. Rob was charismatic to the people, whereas Doug was definitely more like he was a CEO of a company. He was really, really smart, was very good at the politics side, but maybe was not as relatable to other people as Rob. I personally think Doug was the one who probably built Rob into the political powerhouse that he became.
Yo, you want to go shopping? Go do it yourself, all right? I got plans.
Smoking marijuana, eating Cheetos, and masturbating do not constitute plans in my book.
I don't like Doug Ford, but I will say I think he's a political genius. He ran 3 campaigns that have all been extremely historic and successful.
And then I started doing it. All I do is win. I'm at it.
Got money on my mind, I can never get enough.
When Rob entered rehab, he heavily endorsed Doug to take his place on city council. So all of that goodwill that Rob had built up with his constituents from his weight struggles, his addiction, all of that goodwill got transferred over to Doug. I'm not saying Doug wasn't popular in his own right, but I do think Rob had that special something with his audience. People really humanized Rob, and they felt a lot of sympathy for him because they could see their own struggles in him.
I personally have dealt with Rob on 2 or 3 issues myself. I called Rob's office. We made an appointment. 48 hours later, it was fixed.
If Rob is extremely human and flawed, Doug is the most politician-esque human imaginable. All his MOs are to make it easier for corporations and landlords. And yet Rob's flaws made Doug into a human in the eyes of the public without all the controversies that Rob had. After Rob stepped down officially in 2014, Doug actually ran for mayor for the city of Toronto, but he lost to John Tory.
While I deeply regret having to step away from a job that I love, I believe in my heart it is best to fully commit myself to the work that is required.
Doug then announced his candidacy for the leadership of the Progressive Conservatives of Ontario. In 2018, he historically won the election, despite never having been a member of provincial parliament before. People in Canada complain a lot about the Liberals, but I'm going to list off all the messed up things the Ford government has done in the time that they've been in office since 2018. Cancelled a minimum wage increase and froze minimum wage at $14 Canadian, which is only $9.74 USD. He removed the Universal Basic Income project that was being piloted by the Liberal Party, who was in power before him. We could be all receiving universal basic income in Ontario if it weren't for this guy. He removed the free college and university tuition for low-income students. He removed free pharmacare for those below 25. He's attempting to privatize healthcare by allowing private clinics to practice. In my opinion, he's trying to make the whole thing private by straining our existing system and making it so dysfunctional that then people have no choice but to go to these private clinics. It actually is more expensive to help subsidize these private clinics than to just have public clinics, meaning we're giving away money to private institutions to take away our healthcare.
There's a bunch of pigs at the trough and they're slopping up your money, and it's time to kick these guys out of the barn.
He also closed emergency rooms, which is an insane thing to do as someone complaining about understaffing in hospitals. And he froze the rate at which nurses could get raises during a pandemic. He removed funding for after-school activities for low-income youth, which is funnily enough the thing that got his brother into so much trouble in the first place. He closed safe injection sites, which are extremely necessary in order to prevent deaths from overdoses. And the thing that he pisses me off the most, he removed rent control, which means that if you live in a building that was built after 2018, your landlord can just jack up the rent as much as they want.
Two sisters live in a Toronto building and were shocked to be told their rent is going up $7,000 a month. And under the rules, it's perfectly legal to do it.
This caused rents to increase almost double what they were in 2018. And I haven't even gotten into the Greenbelt stuff where he sold public land, taxpayer-funded land, to developers for private development. Doug Ford wanted to sell the protected forests in the Greater Toronto Area, which are known as the Greenbelt.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is making good on his backroom deal with wealthy real estate developers, opening up the Greenbelt to development, even though he promised on video that he would not do this very thing.
He had strong ties to the developers that he chose, which showcases an extreme conflict of interest. Mind you, the Greenbelt is public land that is protected from development for environmental reasons.
We will open up the Greenbelt, not all of it. We're going to open a big chunk of it up.
This plan would have had taxpayers subsidizing rich a-holes to the tune of millions.
There's a bunch of pigs at the trough and they're slopping up your money and they have it all over their face. And it's time to kick these guys out of the barn.
The Narwhal did a great piece covering this story, and you should definitely go check it out. I'll put the link in my description. After the scandal, he apologized and said he made a mistake.
It was a mistake to open the Greenbelt. This process, it caused people to question our motives. I'll be reversing the changes we made and won't make any changes to the Greenbelt in the future.
I will give credit where credit is due. He was somewhat reasonable during the pandemic. He did push wearing masks, getting the vaccine, staying at home. Unlike other conservative politicians.
I was out at an overpass as the truckers went by, and what I saw were cheerful, patriotic, optimistic Canadians.
His daughter is a famous anti-vaxxer, and her husband got fired from the Toronto Police Service for refusing the vaccine. Doug didn't give them money, and he didn't invite them to his family Thanksgiving. So that surprised me because so many conservatives are aligned with anti-vax politics. But on the flip side, he is kind of anti-science when it comes to climate change. He's removed a lot of the great environmental protections that the Liberal Party did, and also his government spends a lot more money than the Liberal government did, even with removing all of these things. So it's not even like he's actually removing the deficit or saving money.
Move forward. but not coming from the government per se, but the premier. It's coming from the health sector. Holy Christ! I just swallowed a bee. Holy Christ! I knew that little bugger. Oh.
The Ford brothers and populism. Let's talk about it. So, in a 2019 Bloomberg article, they go over the rise of Ford Nation, and they talk about the fact that, unlike European populists, Rob and Doug Ford actually had a lot of support from people of color. In addition to the white working class, his base drew support heavily from recent immigrant groups like Arab Muslims, South Asian Hindus, Caribbean evangelicals, and others. The study notes that more than half, 57%, of Ford supporters said more should be done to protect the rights of racial minorities, a striking departure from the coalition that often supports Trump and other populists in Europe. The study also stated, Ford supporters held the LGBTQ community in much lower regard than immigrants and non-whites, and rated feminists lowest of all. Essentially, the Ford brothers were really putting themselves forward on a campaign of protecting quote-unquote family values. It's very sad to me that most of his policies, like lack of rent control, removal of bike lanes, and rolling back free pharmacare and the UBI project, these things impact the people of color who are low income in Toronto the most, out of anyone in the province. More than half of the Black, Arab, and Latin American populations across Canada were renters, which are the highest rates amongst racialized groups. These racialized renters were the ones who supported Rob and Doug, and yet the Fords have built careers off of screwing over these people. The article goes on to state that in 2010's Toronto, the threat was not immigration, but the threat of urban gentrification and the so-called urban elite, and the erosion of traditional values for gender, sexuality, family, and religion. Supporters of Ford Nation, a lot of the time, are people of color who are holding these conservative views and are scared of what change and progress means to them and their communities. They tend to view downtown city folk as elitist and snobby. To me, this actually aligns heavily with like the Six Buzz cinematic universe. There's definitely a flavor of conservatism in Canada that is predominantly held down by cishet people of color. The way Toronto is laid out, certain communities just really live in certain spots, so it's hard for them to go out and meet people from maybe a completely different background. Like if you are a new immigrant, you might not ever even speak to a queer person, and so once you get your citizenship and your right to vote, you're just kind of thinking like, well, I don't know them, so they don't matter to me. That is a problem, like having these kind of segregated neighborhoods. But then at the same time, I understand why, LGBT people might be more likely to live in the Village or Roncesvalles because they want to be around their community, because it is dangerous for them to be around too many like cishet people. I get it. On the flip, I also understand that a lot of these new immigrants like to be around people like them for kind of the same reasons. That sort of safety of, okay, I'm not a minority here. I just think it's very fascinating how in such a diverse city, it is still so easy to be populist, and you can even unite all these people who have nothing in common, like the fact that it was like South Asian Hindus and Arab Muslims voting. These people who don't really have much of a cultural connection to each other, but they're just both so scared of change, maybe, or whatever, that they'll vote in somebody who is putting in policies that are making life harder for them.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth to it.
In the 2020s, there has since been more pushback against immigration in Canada, but at the height of Rob Ford Nation, immigration was actually very celebrated. And even Doug Ford was pro-immigrant as of 2022, although more recently he did blame anti-Semitism on immigrants, which I think is a very messed up rhetoric to push. Like, if you were in Ontario public school in the 2000s, you know that people are just anti-Semitic. It's as homegrown as maple syrup. And usually it was the white kids who watched South Park who were doing it the most, okay? Not the immigrant kids.
Oh, beautiful.
Your theory is, you take care of the balance book and you can take care of the most vulnerable people in the city.
I would describe myself a little bit different than that.
If you're a regular person in Ontario, we all know it's so expensive to live here. And everyone kept blaming Trudeau. Now they're going to blame Carney. It really was Doug Ford all along. The Ford story is kind of ripe for a gritty series, an anthology series. Like there'd be like one movie that's just Rob, one that's just Doug, and then they kind of like switch actors, and it's about the different levels of Ford Nation. That would eat. In the biopic, I want Rob to be played by Michael Cera, but then he goes really method and gains like 50 pounds to play him.
Pale, hairless, coked out of his mind.
Oh, Riri, how about you?
Oh, Jason, fuck up, Jason. We're playing a game, man.
Doug would be perfectly played by Will Arnett, and it would be sort of like a Canadian reunion of Arrested Development.
I mean, it's not about money in the sense that I'm coming here saying, here, Michael, take some money. It's just more of a, may I have some kind of visit.
Will Arnett could wear a bunch of makeup and become unrecognizable for his role as Doug and would win like the Oscar Best Makeup Transformation. Ellen Wong can play Olivia Chow, and then it would be like a mini Scott Pilgrim reunion. Jay Baruchel as John Tory would eat. If they did like a flashback to their childhood, I think Mike Myers should play Doug Sr. Maybe it's a comedy, not an anthology drama, although I do love when comedians play dramatic roles. Let me know who you guys would cast in the comment section below on the Rob and Doug Ford biopic. So subscribe to my channel. I make content about Canada. I release monthly or whenever I can. And I'll see you in the next one.
Oh my God, did you see Brian's hat? Vincent, oh fuck. Ha 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 ha.